A rib roast can be so intimidating. A New York strip roast is a great way to get into roasting. It's roasting 101. This has all the flavor and richness of a rib roast, and it's a total crowd pleaser. We're talking all things strip roast and how you can feel confident about bringing one of these into your home kitchen and turning it into your new favorite roast. This is a New York strip loin. This is where you would get New York strip steaks from if they were cut here. If we want to go for a full New York strip roast, it would actually be the majority of this segment depending on how large your roast is. And to break this down even further, this side of the New York strip would be where the ribeye sits. And this side would be where the sirloin sits. So the New York strip or strip loin sits in between the ribeye and the sirloin. If you look at this side, you're probably pretty familiar with the look of it. This is where you get a New York strip steak or even a Kansas City strip. If you had a bone here, you would call it a T-bone. Add a bone and a big fillet, that's a porterhouse. But we're gonna talk strip roast today. So we'll be focusing on this section here, boneless. So let's take this down into roast form. Now this is probably pretty big for most people to cook at home. So I'm gonna cut it into a section that's pretty reasonable for a home cook. So this will be used for a later time. And then here we have pretty much what you would see in the grocery store as a New York strip roast. Again, if we cut it this way, we'd have strip steaks, but here we're gonna roast it whole. Now, the reason it's cut this way is because that's cut against the grain. The grain runs with the length of this roast. So it's perfect for roasting whole because then when you go to slice, you can slice it thinly across the grain to make the servings. A New York strip is a perfect roast for feeding a group of people because it's got that perfect combination of beautiful marbling with a little bit of fat on top. So it's really a crowd pleaser and it's super, super tender and full of beefy, rich flavor. When you see this in the grocery store, the butcher will probably have already removed this piece of fat known as the tail. So I am gonna go ahead and trim this just a little more because typically in the grocery store, you will see it fairly tightly trimmed. When cooking a roast like this, you always want the fat on top so that it renders down and bastes that roast as it cooks. Now that we've got our New York strip roast here nice and tightly trimmed, let's weigh it and see about how many people that would feed. So we're looking at 5 3/4 pounds. So this roast will easily serve 8 to 10 people depending on how big of eaters you have. And also a roast like this, if you don't have that many people, is great for leftovers. And the reason is you can take this and slice it super thin. It'll make great sandwiches. You could use it for stir fry. You could use it to meal prep for the week. So I always suggest going a little over what you need because you can always find a good way to use some leftovers. If you're thinking that the strip roast is the roast for you, check out the video and a full strip loin breakdown. You can cut it into steaks, utilize a portion for roast, and use all the trimmings for things like stir fry, kebabs, and then even render the fat for tallow. Now that you feel comfortable about picking up a New York strip roast at the grocery store, make sure to download the Roast Perfect app. It'll help guide you along the way to make sure you put a perfect roast on your table. Want to find out where to buy the best beef? Check out the Where to Buy tab on CertifiedAngusBeef.com.